Welcome in to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Timdennis. Got a huge show today with supernatural news. We even have one of your Parashares today. A big show, like I said. Mally Fox is out today, so we're going to bring in another co-hostess. And I think you know this co-hostess. She was with me yesterday. She's intelligent. She's witty. She's vibrant. She's intelligent. Did I mention intelligent? I think I might have mentioned intelligent. She's an author. She's got 3 wonderful books out there right now. She's got like 17 of them on the way, and they're all being released at the same time. Ladies and gentlemen, she's broken every chart into every chart everywhere around the world. They can't stop her. They can only hope to contain her. She's breaking records everywhere around the globe with her books. Let's welcome her in right now. I can talk. I know I can. Ladies and gentlemen, here she is, Jessica Freeburg. Jess, how you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for that nice introduction. I feel so intelligent.
Did I mention you were intelligent? I didn't know if I did or not.
I feel really smart today for some reason. I think maybe it's just, glowing off of me.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. Well, you're going to have to put on your thinking cap today because, boy, do we have some stories that are all over the place today. I'll tell you, all over. They span the paranormal gamut. I'm using big words. I got my thesaurus, for
Yeah, I know. I'm over here with my dictionary, like, look, what does that mean?
gamut. Yeah, we've got quite a bit on tap today. Of course, we've got our usual interstellar news with the whole alien thing going on, including, oh, you know what? We got a little MKUltra mixed in. It's rare. It seems like the MKUltra stuff that's mentioned lately is few and far between. But we have an interesting story today about mind-controlled animals in MKUltra.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was quite the controversial little story that came up this week. We'll talk about that today. Ed Sheeran is in now on the whole AI thing and AI taking over humanity, which of all the people that talk about AI and mind control, Ed Sheeran, not the guy I would, or not mind control, but AI taking over the world. Ed Sheeran would not be the guy I would think would jump in on this.
Yeah, that isn't a name I was expecting to hear on today's show.
That's right. So, but we'll get his take on things. Earlier this week or earlier last week, I don't know how this ties in, but I'm going to do a little speculation here. There's a story out there about Annabelle, the doll, the real doll, not the movie, but the real Annabelle. The real Annabelle is now out on tour.
Okay.
And has been taken out on tour by Ed and Lorraine Warren's grandson, I believe. Somehow, I believe this ties into a social media post that John Zaffis put out. John Zaffis has been posting a lot of cryptic posts lately about snakes and not being able to trust certain people. And I have a feeling it has nothing to do with, and again, this is just speculation. I don't know anything. I don't know anything on the inside. I don't claim to be an insider. I don't claim to know anything about what John's talking about. It's just a feeling. But when you see this story, when I read this story, I'll explain it to you, why I think he's talking about the subject of this story. He put out a series of posts last week. And one of them had to do with Ed and Lorraine. In fact, I'll bring up the post and we'll talk about it. But I really do think he's talking about Ed and Lorraine's grandson. And it's unfortunate if it's come to this.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that a little bit later in the program. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. And we'll talk about chemtrails today, which is something that we rarely talk about on the program, but there's more states that are lining up to talk about banning sky spraying. We'll talk about chemtrails. And I've never asked you, I don't think I've ever asked you, Jess. We'll get to it later in the program. Do you actually believe chemtrails are real? Hold your thoughts on that.
Okay.
When we get to that later in the program. And our palate cleanser for today has to do with free flights on airplanes. And do you think you can get away with it? One person actually did. I'll tell you how they did it.
It'd be nice to save some money.
Yeah, it would. But it may be only you that gets away with it. So we'll tell you how that happens. That'll be coming up at the end of the program. But first, let's jump right into the interstellar news. We'll talk about Pentagon disinformation and how it's been fueling UFO conspiracies for decades. There's a story out there that a congressionally ordered probe has revealed instances where the Pentagon and their officials are spreading disinformation about UFOs. Surprise, surprise. Like we didn't kind of figure that out already. But the X-Files has taught us that the truth is out there, yet it seems as though much of the allegedly classified information that has been leaked from facilities such as Area 51 over the years has been deliberately placed into the public domain in an effort to mask actual government black projects from the public behind stories of UFOs and alien cover-ups. This was the remarkable finding of a recent congressionally ordered probe that has uncovered decades of deliberate lies and falsehoods being perpetuated by government officials. In one instance, an Air Force colonel reportedly leaked photographs, that's leaked as in parentheses, leaked, photographs of flying saucers at a bar near Area 51 in Nevada in the hopes of perpetuating the idea that alien spaceships were being kept there. It turned out that the photographs were deliberate fakes. His real agenda was to cover up the fact that the U.S. was working on top secret stealth fighters at the base by framing any sightings of strange objects in the region as evidence of alien visitors. Well, there you go. You're covering up real technology with fake stuff so that if you look up in the sky and see something weird, well, of course it's got to be aliens, right?
Right, of course.
Yeah. According to a recent Wall Street Journal investigation, this type of thing has been going on for decades, with the Pentagon deliberately fanning the flames of UFO conspiracies. One has to wonder just how far this type of thing has spread over the years. Just how many of the whistleblowers, government insiders, and stories of leaked UFO secrets have been the results of Pentagon officials deliberately propagating a false UFO alien narrative? What better way to hide evidence of the development of advanced aircraft from the Soviet Union but to convince the world that every strange little thing in the sky is an alien spaceship? It's quite possible that this rabbit hole delves far deeper than we ever could have imagined, says the ending of the story. Now, see, Jess, I've always maintained, and people have said, well, no, it can't be, Tim. It just can't be, that 95% of the stuff you see in the sky that's strange is human made. And that
Yeah.
5% of what you see in the sky is an actual alien craft.
I would tend to agree with that theory. I feel like there's a lot of stuff up there that is explainable. And then there's also stuff that's up there that's been man-made that we're just not aware of yet because they don't tell us anything.
Yeah.
And
Now,
then there's your alien stuff.
right. Now, could we have gotten technology from a different place and reverse engineered it? Sure.
Yeah.
Could it have happened at one time? Maybe. But as our guest tomorrow, which we'll tease later on in the program, might be leading on to, maybe the place that we got the technology, was it alien or something different? Was it a different source that we got this technology from? Did we do a deal with the devil to get this
Ooh,
technology? We'll find out a little
that's going to
bit.
be a good show. I'm excited for tomorrow.
Yeah. So there's different ways of looking at it. But again, I never discount human ingenuity. You give a
Right.
human a hammer and nails, and they'll make something brilliant out of hammer, nails, wood, right? Or you
Yeah.
give them the ability to, you have liquid metal, they figure out metal cools. Well, we'll make brilliant things out of metal. The human brain is a beautiful thing. It can figure out being, be genius and turn genius into beautiful things. It can make art. It can make architecture,
Right.
make whatever it wants to make. I think we shortchange ourselves, but I think we can do whatever we want to do. This next story is an interesting one at that. So speaking of whether we believe or not believe what's coming out of the government. A senior Army official says we spoke to a soldier astronaut on the moon. I know that sounds like word salad. But Secretary of the Army Dan Driscoll recently made a startling remark during an interview on Fox News. Despite the fact that no human has set foot on the moon since the end of the Apollo era in the 1970s, one of America's most senior military officials this week made a rather bizarre claim about the country's presence on the lunar surface during a live news interview. Speaking to Brian Kilmeade on Fox News on Wednesday, Dan Driscoll, the Secretary of the Army, unexpectedly, I can say this word, Jess, I swear, unexpectedly came out with a reference to a soldier astronaut on the moon while talking about the events surrounding the Army's 250th anniversary. The Army started planning this anniversary parade long in advance because what we believe is this will continue the strength in recruiting and retention that we have as young Americans across the country get to see all of the amazing things that the Army has done, he said. Whether it's helping with floods in North Carolina or wildfires in California, or we talked to an astronaut yesterday who's on the moon who's a soldier, including actually going to war and fighting to defend the freedoms that are that make our nation so great. Now, what's wrong with that sentence? We talked to an astronaut yesterday who's on the moon who's a soldier. What?
I don't understand what's happening in this story right now.
Right. And then Kilmore replied, I think they mean Kilmeade replied, right, the Army can celebrate the Army. That's what it's about. Kilmeade said without picking up on the moon comment or asking Driscoll to elaborate on it. I think he skipped over it.
Is he just like, it's just too weird. I'm not even going to touch it.
Well, I think he didn't touch it because it opens up a can of worms that you can't put the genie back in the bottle, right? You just can't.
That's true.
Right. So what exactly was Driscoll referring to here? Well, some have suggested that the evidence is that the U.S. has been conducting clandestine lunar landings for years, while others believe it was just a slip of the tongue. So far, no official comments have been made regarding this remark. I tell you what, the clip is actually available in the story. I'm going to post the story in the description of this program so that you can watch the clip for yourself and see. I'm not making up the quote. He said the quote.
Yeah. That's so weird.
So you can see he's talking about a soldier astronaut on the moon. I don't doubt that there was a reason they made up Space Force.
Right.
President Trump made up Space Force in his first term. It's an actual branch. It's been operating. It gets a budget.
Yeah. And again, we just don't know. They don't tell us stuff. We're purposefully kept in the dark.
Right. We're a mushroom. We're kept in the dark and fed full of shit, right? And there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it. And obviously there's a branch of the military that operates in space for a reason. There's a reason why they think space is so important to be there. Now, whether it's because other countries are trying to get there for other reasons, whether it be because there's valuable minerals out there that we need to mine, or valuable resources that we need that are out there, or they feel like there's wars out there to be fought because there's other races out there that we're not aware of, or whatever it is, they obviously feel that there's a reason to be out there. So, but it's weird that there's a soldier astronaut they're just talking to out there.
Yeah. And he just let it slip.
Let it slip. That's for sure. Our next story has to do with MKUltra. The CIA once tried to use mind-controlled animals as assassins. Imagine going to pet that nice, pretty little dog that's coming up to you, and that dog actually goes for your throat.
I knew Phoebe was special. She had specialized training.
Phoebe Buffay was trained by the CIA, huh? Secretive experiments conducted in the 1960s used electrodes to mind control animals for nefarious purposes. 60 years ago, the CIA was involved in a secretive and controversial program known as MKUltra, which experimented with mind control techniques, often involving unwilling or unknowing human participants. Before this, however, researchers attempted various mind control experiments using animals. The idea was to use electrical impulses to stimulate the brains of the animals, which included rats, cats, dogs, monkeys, donkeys, guinea pigs, and birds. Can you imagine that army coming for you?
I'm just envisioning it in my head. I hope they're wearing little sweaters.
No, no, don't put sweaters on them. Come on.
Yeah, and remember the little hamster sweaters? They're so cute.
No, well, okay, yeah, on hamsters they are, but you put them on chickens and that's ridiculous. I
Well,
draw the
guinea
line.
pigs would be adorable.
Okay, yeah, on guinea pigs, yeah, I'll give you that. But
The
I have a
chickens can just wear a bow tie. That's all. They just need a little bow tie.
okay, I'll give you a bow tie. But I have a running argument with my cousin about sweaters on chickens.
I can't imagine getting a chicken to let you put a sweater on it.
Right. But why would a descendant of a dinosaur need a sweater? I
It
mean,
doesn't.
they have feathers.
Right. It's wearing a sweater.
Yes. It's just the most ridiculous thing in the world. Chickens and sweaters. Anyways, I'm getting away from this.
Oh,
Some animals were rigged with explosives or deadly toxins, essentially acting as assassins that the enemy, in this case the Soviet Union, would never see coming. A rat, for example, Jess, could be used to poison someone, while larger animals could even be equipped with explosives that would be remotely detonated when the animal reached its objective.
what on earth?
Think now to take this to a different extreme, think about recently the Israeli pager uh, debacle that they did. I say
Yeah.
debacle, but it wasn't a debacle; it was successful. But what they were doing in in the different countries they were doing this in, I think it was Lebanon. They were doing the was it Lebanon? They were doing the pager thing, the pager experiment. They were doing it with different Palestinian groups.
Okay. I don't remember exactly where it was.
But do you remember what they were doing? They were handing out pagers, and
Hmm.
then they were beeping terrorists with pagers, and then when they would beep them, they blow them up. There were
Kabam.
yeah, there were explosives inside pagers.
Right.
Essentially, back in the '60s, they were going to use animals for the same thing,
You think it's a chicken, come to lay an egg.
or a dog that was supposedly loyal to you, and then boom,
Yeah, because then the animal blows up too.
yeah,
That's not cool.
it's not humane. That's for sure. According to declassified files, the researchers did manage to control the animals using these methods, although it doesn't look as though they were ever used to assassinate any targets. So they never really did get the program under control or even get it started. Instead, the information learned from the research was later applied to human mind control experiments before the whole thing was hushed up by the powers that be. It wasn't until decades later that the full extent of what the CIA had been up to during these years that it was fully exposed. But still, I mean, I think the forefront of MK Ultra ended up being what the Mossad is now doing in Israel. I mean,
Hmm.
and actually I watched a little bit of what the Mossad is up to now in Israel on 60 Minutes like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, some of what they're doing is terrifying. Because now they say in their war with the Palestinians, they've got them so on edge that they don't know if they can trust their air conditioners.
Oh gosh.
Like they don't know whether they can turn on their air conditioners because they don't know if they're rigged to rigged to explode.
Right. Oh, that's such a scary way to have to live.
Right? I mean, like everything any electronic device they use, they don't know if it's rigged. If they don't know if it's rigged to explode.
Hmm.
I mean, that's how nervous they have them. I mean, that's the level that both sides are at right now.
Right. That's how you break people down. Like that's psychological warfare.
That is. That's warfare on a whole different level. But that's where MKUltra started. And this was in the 60s. That's where they started, which is interesting stuff.
Wild.
Kind of returning to the interstellar news part of our program, the surge in crop circles has sparked police appeal in Wiltshire, England. I don't know where you stand on crop circles. Some people just think it's a flat board and people running around in a circle in a
I
field. But
mean, I think there are definitely crop circles that are not explainable by that method. So I have to think again, same with like, UFOs. 5% of them are real.
mhm,
Many of them are man-made, just someone messing with us or, whatever.
mhm.
So, yeah, I'm sure some of them are real though. They're just too wild not to be.
Yeah, yeah. There's
There's
some
no
of them
path to them. There's no explanation for it.
very true, and
They're
some of the
so intricate.
yeah, some of the more ornate ones are interesting, and the more geographical ones are confusing. The best way to put it.
Yeah.
Crop circles have become such a nuisance in parts of the country that of England that local police have been appealing to the public. Back in the early 90s, crop circles became something of a global phenomenon with mysterious patterns and shapes springing up in fields in countries all across the world. At the time, the popularity of shows such as The X Files saw a sustained uptick in the interest in the unexplained, with many associating crop circles with UFOs and extraterrestrial visitors. While today some people remain adamant that crop circles have unearthly origins, it is generally accepted that the vast majority have been created by humans rather than aliens. Even so, the subject does still command a degree of intrigue. Most recently, police in the English county of Wiltshire put out a general appeal to the public asking for people to come forward and report any crop circles that they happen to come across. Much of the concern is due to the damage that crop circles can or what they can do to the fields of local farmers. While they may look impressive, creating a crop circle without the landowner's permission is criminal damage, Wiltshire police said in a statement. These acts can cause serious short and long term damage to crops and fields and may also attract further illegal activity. Landowners who do find a crop circle in one of their fields are being urged to erect a no public access sign if they don't want members of the public traipsing over their land to come and see it. Those who don't mind visitors, meanwhile, have been advised to speak to their insurer, as they will be responsible for the health and safety of anyone who happens to step onto their land. Exactly how many landowners will actually encourage such visits, however, remains unclear. I can't imagine that there's a farmer out there that wants crop circles to be done on their property.
No, because they're trying to make money off that field and you can't unless you're going to start charging admission, which, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
you're not going to be able to profit the way that you would from selling a full crop of corn.
right. There's just no way to break even by putting a crop circle in the middle of your field and
No.
turning around and saying, "Well, I'll charge admission." Who's going to come see it? And second of all, you have to get up in the air in order to do that.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
and there's no farmer that I know of that has that big of an aerial vehicle that you can bring people up in the air and charge admission to go look at a crop circle for a few minutes.
No, and it seems like most farmers are very practical minded kind of people. They're not going to come up with that idea.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it wouldn't make good financial sense or common sense either way. So,
Exactly.
one more story before we go to break here: a non-human voices in the depths, a blueprint for alien content or contact rather is the question. I know that didn't make much sense the way I put it. Let's just get into the story and I'll make sense of it. SETI has been taking inspiration from the mysterious communications of a well-known ocean-dwelling mammal. Efforts to scour the heavens for evidence of alien life have typically been focused on listening out for radio signals or looking for the techno-signatures of alien civilizations around distant stars. But now SETI, or the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, has found an analog for alien communication much closer to home, and it could play a vital role in aiding for the hunt for alien life. The search in question concerns mysterious bubble rings created by humpback whales a phenomenon that has until recently been attributed to the animal's mating rituals. According to SETI's researchers, however, these bubble rings may actually be an attempt by the whales to communicate with humans, and they may have been trying to talk to us for years. They are blowing bubble rings in our direction in an apparent attempt to playfully interact, observe our response, and or engage in some form of communication, said study lead author Dr. Fred Sharp from the University of California, Davis. By looking back through recorded examples of this phenomenon, the researchers discovered multiple instances of whales creating these bubble rings while approaching boats and exhibiting playful, relaxed behavior, indicating a legitimate attempt to communicate. These rings could simply be the whale's way of saying, "Hi there, let's chat." And we're like, blow another bubble, because we're stupid like that, is pretty much the way we are. Right, Jess? I mean, pretty much.
Like, ooh, bubbles in the water.
Yeah, bubbles, do it again. SETI is now using this concept to help scour the universe for signs of an equivalent act by an extraterrestrial civilization that may be trying to attract our attention in a much similar way. The findings could also help scientists determine how many alien civilizations might be out there. By integrating our findings into the broader context of Drake's equation, we aspire to advance our understanding of the factors influencing the emergence of communicative intelligence in extraterrestrial civilizations, the team wrote. So basically, we're looking for aliens blowing bubbles, Chance. That's what we're looking for.
Kind of like when my kids would fart in the bathtub, Tim.
Yes, we're looking for aliens farting in the bathtub.
And I'm like, what are you trying to tell me?
Say something. Something other than that, if you can. We'd appreciate it. So there you go. All right. Coming up in the next segment, Ed Sheeran fears creepy AI could turn out just like the Matrix and enslave us all. We'll find out about that when we come back. Why is a singer-songwriter worried about the Matrix? Interesting stuff. Annabelle is out on tour, and we'll tell you why the Warrens' grandson is worried about Annabelle and a horrible car crash, and putting that all into a warning for everybody as Annabelle tours the country. I'll also tell you why I am tying that into some posts that John Zaffis made over this past week, because I really do believe that John is giving us a little bit of a warning too. And I'll tell you why I think that. I think maybe he's had enough. I think at first it was good to not expose, but to put a spotlight on Ed and Lorraine and their legacy. I think maybe John's had enough, and he's given us a little bit of a warning. So it's just my 2 cents, but I'll tell you why I think that. The Bilderberg Conference is up and running again. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? It's taking place in Sweden right now. We'll talk about it when we come back. Chemtrails, good or bad thing? We'll talk about that as well towards the end of the program. And our palate cleanser has to do with one person who got on free flights over 120 times. We'll tell you how. It's coming up.
Whoa.
Yeah. And we have one Parashare today. We'll take your Parashares. And we'll tell you, first of all, before we go to break, how you do that. Tim@darknessradio.com. Send us an email. You can also go to darknessradio.com. Submit your voice note by clicking on the blue button on the right-hand side of the website. There's a little blue button. So submit your voice note there. Or if you have a studio, just like the ones that Jess and I are sitting in right now, you can make your own theater of the mind. You can put a little voice track in there with your lovely voice, throw some music behind it and some sound effects. Submit it to me at tim@darknessradio.com. I'll review it. If it's good enough for air, by gosh, we'll air it right here on the program. So when we come back, all those stories and more right here on a Supernatural News Wednesday. It's Supernatural News and Parashare with your buddies, Tim and Jess, right here on the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. With me is Jessica Freeburg. Jess, we're just going to rip the Band-Aid off right here, and we'll just say that, you know what doesn't make me happy? It's AI stuff. That's right. So we just do that, and then we fire the theme, and then we get into this AI news.
Let's just go.
We just go. And you know what else? Who else isn't happy with AI stuff is Ed Sheeran.
Really?
Yeah, of all the people. Well, you kind of figure he's an analog guy, right? Just
Yeah,
carries a guitar, writes stuff on a guitar, plays a guitar, sings with a guitar. He's not a big synthesizer guy. So I suppose he's not a big fan of AI, right?
probably not. He's an acoustic fella.
That's right. He's an acoustic. Good way to put it, Jess. He's an acoustic fella. He evidently fears that creepy AI could turn out just like the Matrix and enslave us all. Might be going a little far. I mean, but he took it to the extreme. He's there, right? Pop star Ed Sheeran has admitted that he's worried by the rise of AI and slammed it as creepy. Bad Habits and Shape of You singer said we should have been warned by movies with plots of bots attacking humans. Famous flicks that tackle artificial intelligence and include The Terminator, The Matrix, and I, Robot are great examples. The 34-year-old Sheeran said, I do have a lot of thoughts on it, actually. I think that on the macro level, and this is sort of comedic, but also true, after like 70 years of making movies about AI killing us, why the F are we still funding it? All right, you got a
Fair question.
question. The singer continued, and also on the other side of things, if you're taking lots of jobs away from human beings and there's lots of human beings being created every day, every single day, that's not going to make for a great world in 20 years' time. There's a lack of jobs as well as technology that's smarter than us. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's that wrong with just sticking at a certain point. I don't know if I'm reading that sentence correctly, but
That
that's,
wasn't very lyrically put.
yeah, I don't know what's that wrong with just sticking at a certain point, is what he's saying. I don't know what that means. There's a certain point, he says, where it's just kind of goes too far. And I think AI is just getting to a point, especially with music and art and films. They had the Hollywood strikes because extras were just going to get cloned and put in movies. I think that's simplifying it. The reason they had it was because they were going to use AI to do things cheaper. They were going to essentially replace, real actors with AI.
Right.
Yeah. Ed also warned that and they were going to replace writers with AI. They were going to replace everything with AI. Ed also warned that the quality of output from AI is not as good as real life because it is devoid of emotion. Although if you see some of the songs that have been written by AI online, they're kind of funny. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, they're kind of fun.
They are. He explained, I don't think that they're ever going to be able to replace feeling and heart. And I don't think you're going to watch anything on TV that's made by AI that's going to make you cry personally. It's not healthy regardless of the product because the product itself would be shit anyways, is what he says. Although, because it is so non-feeling and it doesn't associate with anything human, it is funny. I mean, it
Right.
makes some very funny stuff because it's so not in touch with humanity.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
I think, yeah, it produces stuff, but it has no empathy, no emotion. So it doesn't get it right all the time. It tries to replicate it.
Yeah.
So I
And
think you can use it for things,
it,
but
yeah,
you have to bring humanity to it because it
right.
can't do it on its own. I
Well,
mean, eventually maybe it can, and that's where it gets creepy.
yeah. Eventually it has to start out somewhere and then it has to have a reference point and then go from there. But it has to have a constant reference point. It has to keep referencing humanity in order to stay in touch with it. It has to have a
Right.
touchstone or a touch point.
I mean, there are books being written with AI fully. Like Amazon has a clause, you have to disclose if you've written your book with AI because people are doing it and they're self-publishing it. The big houses aren't doing that yet. But like in my contracts that I just signed a couple weeks ago, there's a clause in there saying I won't use AI.
Really?
So now it's been added in there that we can't, which I wouldn't anyway.
I actually got intern Yoko wrote me a book with AI about the chipmunks, and it's
Oh,
brilliant. It's a brilliant book, and basically the way it works, there's a company that does it, where you answer a questionnaire, and it makes up a 200-page book based on these characters.
yeah. I had a book like that made when I was a kid. So back in the 80s,
Mhm.
and it was, I mean, this was before AI, so they were basically just plugging my name, and my aunt had it made for me, and she sent them my name, my age, my favorite color, my puppy's name, like all this kind of stuff. And then when they sent it to me, it was like me in the story.
Oh, but
So,
this is detailed. I mean,
but this is next level of that. Like it's
this is
taken,
this is next level, like adventures. Like, I mean, at one point, Spud is my co-host on Darkness Radio. I mean, I mean, there's like, there. I'll have to, I will have to show it to you.
yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I will use it for my day job in digital marketing. And we have free reign to use it to create stuff. We can't put stuff out that's AI generated, but we can use it to brainstorm and fine tune things or take something that we've had it do and clean it up and make it more human again.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't use it for my writing. But
Yeah, and it's. I mean, the stories are cute. You know, they're
yeah,
very cute. I mean, there's nothing that's over the top, mind blowing as far as ingenuity, right?
no, it's just taking stories that it's scanned and it's regurgitating them,
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
you
There's nothing.
know,
Yeah. There's nothing groundbreaking, but they're just cute little stories.
but they're cute. They're fun.
Yeah.
I don't hate AI for that.
No, no.
People can have fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Um, Sheeran goes on to say that I think that's all. I think that all things need heart in them, and it needs human heart. And I don't think AI can replace how you feel on that day or how you feel writing a thing or making a movie that moves you. And I don't think that that's ever going to be a thing. But just aside from that, people need jobs. Don't take those things away. If you're an extra, that's your effing bread and butter. Well, that's true. And then suddenly you're going to be replaced by a computer. I guess it's a cost thing at the end of the day, but I just find it a bit creepy, really. Ed also told the Louise Theroux podcast that he's been a victim of an AI deepfake image of himself. He added, I just saw a picture of me and my wife holding up a baby scan yesterday, saying that we were having a third baby. Someone found it on Facebook. It was a weird AI picture. It was faked up, but stuff like that, misinformation everywhere. I just don't think it's healthy. Yeah,
Oh, it's not.
the deep fake stuff is bizarre.
No, and I've been noticing a lot on Facebook because, I follow like creepy history stuff. And so like I'm an algorithm for anything that's like cool, creepy history. So I'll get things in my feed that are totally not true, but they're presented as true history and
Mm.
like images that are presented as, oh, they just found this woman, in an ice cave or whatever. And it's not real. I mean, they have found stuff like that before, but this is all like fabricated BS and it's presented as real. And every time I see it, I'm like, we're not smart enough to discern. Like, we're not gonna
Right,
know what real history is eventually. Like in 20 years, people aren't gonna know what's what.
right, right.
We're creating a whole new past that never happened.
An alternate history, which
Yes.
is dangerous because, like you said, Jess, we don't know. We have no idea. We have no clue, and we want so hard to believe. We want so hard to believe that these alternate histories are what truly happened. These
Yeah.
fables that people are cooking up happened. Um, and because it was thrown on the internet, it happened, right?
And people don't take the time to see if something is real or not. N- Most people don't research things before they retweet it, repost it, whatever. And so they see something that's fascinating or aligns with their beliefs and they're immediately reposting it without even making sure that it's true. So then it just becomes this crazy game of telephone that's not fun.
Yeah.
That frightens me, actually.
Yeah. Very
It's gonna
much so.
make us stupider, Tim.
That's right. That's right. We'll all run around being a bunch of fountains of misinformation, which is a great band name. I don't know.
Yeah.
Fountains of misinformation.
And people with anxiety are gonna have so much more anxiety. Everyone's gonna have to be on medication for anxiety because we're all gonna be freaking out.
That's right.
And the
That's right.
truth is, most of it's not real.
That's right. That's right. It's yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess, that's for sure. Well, meanwhile, if a billionaire trader is out there warning you about it, then there's probably an issue with it. If a guy who's making money out there is telling you there's an issue, there's an issue. Billionaire trader Paul Tudor Jones is warning that AI could trigger mass unemployment, yet it could revolutionize education. 6 of 1, half dozen. Paul Tudor Jones has warned that AI could cause mass unemployment and even threaten the human race. The billionaire trader said the technology has great potential, but poses risks for safety and stability. The quote here from him is, "This is obviously the most disruptive technology in the history of mankind," the billionaire trader told Bloomberg Open Interest on Wednesday. The Tudor Investment Corporation founder turned a decades-old sci-fi series, or turned to it to explain the existential threat posed by AI. His quote is, "There is a great Twilight Zone episode where the aliens came down to Earth and they hand this book that says to serve man to the people. And everyone goes, hooray! They're going to serve or save humanity. And it's a humanitarian guide. And when they open it up, it turns out to be a cookbook." It's true. If you've ever seen To Serve Man, that's what it is. It's a cookbook when they open it up. The downside of AI is that we've been served yet, pointing to Tesla CEO Elon Musk's warning on a February podcast that there's a 20% chance of AI wiping out humanity. That risk should set off alarm bells throughout the world, Jones continued. He also highlighted Anthropic CEO Dario, I believe it is Amodai's, suggesting that U.S. unemployment could surge from around 4% to around 10 to 20% within the next 5 years as AI displaces legions of white-collar workers. Jones called that a massive stability issue on top of safety concerns about the nascent tech. AI is already reshaping industries such as law, consulting, banking, and the media by automating tasks and producing faster and better work than humans in some cases. Jones singled out education as one area where AI could be a force for good. The advent of virtual tutors who can help students with any subject could or should mean there's no excuse for a low-income kid not to have the greatest education. He cautioned that President Trump's proposed One Big Beautiful Bill includes a moratorium on AI regulation that could allow the risks it poses to become reality. Interesting stuff. So Paul Tudor Jones out there saying, hey, you know what? Too many risks out here. Maybe there's not enough reward, but you have to minimize the risks here in order to make it work.
Right.
I think too, back in February when Musk said, you know what, this is probably the greatest danger to humanity that we've had in quite some time, that it could destroy humanity. I think that's this from a guy who's developing the technology. Everyone who's ever developed this technology has said it could destroy humanity. There's not one developer of this technology who said a great thing about it.
Yeah, they're like, disclaimer.
Yeah, I'm developing it. I know I'm going to make a ton of money at it, but by the way, we could ruin humanity with it.
I know, and it's such a weird thing because you can't live in the modern time and not touch AI. You use it when you use your Alexa. I want to say that word quietly because I don't want yours to start talking to us. But, we've been using it. We use it with our maps, we use it with a lot of different things. it's just becoming more and more and more. You can't not have your hand in AI, but also there's a part of you that doesn't want anything to do with it.
Right.
But then you wouldn't function in society either.
Right.
So what do? You kind of have to just roll along and pray to God that they come up with ways to protect us before it gets as bad as it could.
Well, that's the thing. The safeguards have to be there, and you hope that they keep putting the safeguards in place before it runs amok.
Yeah.
And I had told many people that, especially people in the chat room, there's already one form of AI that's run amok. You can find it online.
Mm,
There's one form of AI that's already out there in rogue, and it's not hard to research. You just go to TikTok, you can find it,
right.
and it's a scary story. Um, but what to do about it? Well, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, so to speak. You
Right.
can't. You just have to find ways to work with it and make it work for you rather than work against it, right? Because once you're fighting it, well, then you can't go backwards. You can never go backwards with technology. You can only move forwards and try to make it malleable enough to make it work for you.
Exactly. And in the workforce, you have to learn how to incorporate it into your work because if you don't work for yourself, if you work for someone else, the odds are they're going to want people who know how to utilize AI in their workflow.
Mhm.
So, you kind of got to embrace it, but also I know we're all kind of like, "Oh, it makes me itchy."
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a lot of people nervous. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It does make me nervous. I'm not, but not nervous necessarily in a bad way. I mean, I know a lot of people go, but Tim, you're paranoid every week about it. No, it's a lot. There's part of it that's a bit, but the other part of it is, um, it's a huge part of me that doesn't trust it. I don't fully trust it because, again, machines aren't infallible, right?
Right.
They're
And that's the
machines
big
break down.
thing. That's the big thing too is and if they can get it to a point where it is infallible, but I don't see how you can do that because it's a machine, then we're in trouble. But right now, if you use AI, you say you use ChatGPT to research something, it's really a great resource for research. It can do a month's worth of research in an hour. Like you can plug something in and it can scour the internet and it can give you back research notes. It's amazing for that. But it's not all accurate.
Right, right.
So, like, if I'm using it in my day job for digital marketing and I try to get stats for something I'm writing about, healthcare or whatever it might be, I gotta double check those stats, and 9 times out of 10, they're not exactly what the research that they link me to actually says.
Yeah,
It's very fallible, honestly.
which is crazy, isn't it? I mean,
And
if
you think about, yeah, using it for kids for tutoring, oh my god, our kids are gonna be so dumb.
right, they're going to be
They're gonna come
stupid.
out yeah, they're not gonna know what's right.
They're going to be a bunch of idiots running around because well, I learned it from ChatGPT. Well, ChatGPT doesn't know because it's out there grabbing false information.
It really does. Or it takes a research article and it summarizes it, but it summarizes it wrong.
Yeah, it's just grabbing random things and putting them together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not grabbing the right random things. So it's yeah, it's still not. Yeah, it's still not 100% right.
No, it's definitely not. But even in that example, okay, so it gives me wrong information and it gives me the resource, because I'll prompt it, also supply the link to the resource. Then I read the resource and I realize it's not accurate because I have to double check. It has given me a place to find a tidbit of information. So it's pointed me in the right direction. So it's good for that. But if we start relying on it and trusting it, then I think we're in a world of hurt.
But hasn't it also created twice the amount of work for you?
Yeah. I mean, it and essentially created a different type of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have pointed you in a direction, but you're also chasing it. I mean, you're chasing it around.
Yeah. Is it really saving you time if you have to
Right.
double check it, recheck it, fix it,
It's
swear
like,
at it, and then try
yeah,
again?
Yeah, you're babysitting another employee is what you're doing. I mean, it doesn't seem like you're saving any time.
Yeah, but if you don't know how to do that, you're not going to be employable in 5, 10 years.
True. Very true.
But
Very true. Well, let's move on. I had teased earlier in the program that the Annabelle doll, the actual real Annabelle doll, is out on tour right now, and it's being kept firmly in a glass case, which I never. I mean, as a paranormal investigator, it doesn't make sense that you would keep a possessed doll behind a glass case, and that would make it safe.
we're safe because it's behind a glass.
Right. Yeah. Woo. That'll keep you from being possessed. Um, but once kept behind that firm glass case, Annabelle is now touring the U.S., and the grandson of Ed and Lorraine Warren has grave concerns about the harm that the sinister doll could reportedly inflict in the wrong hands. For decades now, the notorious Annabelle doll has been providing nightmare fuel, now amid fears that she could be wreaking mayhem across the U.S. The grandson of her former owners has issued a foreboding warning. The infamous Raggedy Ann doll, best known to modern horror fans by her more menacing fictionalized form in the Conjuring universe films, is supposedly haunted by the spirit of a deceased 6-year-old girl, with this strange mythology building over time. Back in 1970, a student nurse from Hartford, Connecticut, reported a series of strange happenings surrounding the allegedly fearsome red-haired doll, claiming that Annabelle had the ability to move around and even inflict psychic slashes on horrified house guests. As detailed in the 2014 movie Annabelle, the student and her roommate reached out to Ed and Lorraine Warren for assistance, the husband and wife duo famed for delving into some of the most chilling paranormal cases ever recorded, from the Amityville haunting to the Enfield poltergeist. After deeming Annabelle to be demonically possessed, Ed and Lorraine had the doll locked up in their now closed occult museum filled with artifacts from their various investigations. This collection, kept at the Warrens' former home in Monroe, Connecticut, included a purported vampire coffin, as well as a child's gravestone, which has allegedly been used for satanic purposes. Out of all these objects, however, there is none that sparks a shudder quite like Annabelle. Kept in a glass case bearing the warning, "Positively do not open," because that'll keep you from doing it too, Jess. Young members of the Warren family were taught at a very early age that Annabelle was not a toy. In a recent interview with The Mirror, the Warrens' grandson, Chris McKinnell, recalled how in his youth he was taught to respect the artifacts in his grandparents' museum, reflecting that Annabelle is more like a cobra. Chris grew up in the Warrens' museum, which was never open to the public, and which he views as more of a prison than a place of curiosity. He can still remember one chilling instance when his then 2-year-old sister locked him inside at night, an instance reminiscent of a shudder-inducing scene involving a child in the third Conjuring film. Looking back at the traumatizing incident, Chris shared, "My grandfather luckily was in his office and heard me screaming bloody murder, and he came out and got me. But after that, I was so afraid of the dark that I couldn't sleep without a light on." Ultimately, Chris was able to face his fears and overcome his terror of the dark in a highly unusual way by accompanying Ed and Lorraine in their spine-tingling line of work. He joined Ed on his first case at the age of just 16 and claims to have heard a wall-shaking poundings, clawings, and growls during an intense situation, an initiation, inspired by his war veteran grandfather's bravery. However, the teenage Chris, he said, stood firm. He went on to help out his grandparents on some of their best-known cases, he says, including the possession of Maurice Thiraud, who inspired the character of Frenchie in the Nun movies. Now 60, Chris is on a mission to encourage others not to be frightened when it comes to the activity on the other side of the veil, so to speak. Having reportedly inherited several of his grandmother's psychic gifts, apparently not all, Chris upholds Ed and Lorraine's legacy through the Warren Legacy Foundation, through which he continues their work on a worldwide scale. Chris explained, "My goal is to educate people and let them not be afraid. When you hear the footsteps in the hallway in the middle of the night, it's not the devil, for God's sake. It's probably your grandmother or the old man that used to live there. However, when it comes to Annabelle, Chris believes caution is absolutely necessary, as family members and those close to them have learned the hard way. Chris recounted the story of family friend Father Bill Charbonneau, who reportedly ended up in severe peril following an encounter with Annabelle. Back in 1975, Father Bill, whom he remembers as one of those hip young 70s priests, drove over to the Warren home, located fittingly, Chris believes, on a dead end, to show off his brand new car and call upon devout Catholics. And Lorraine, Chris, who remembers attending Father Bill's Christmas Eve Mass with his grandmother, said, afterwards, he said to my grandfather, Ed, I hear you've got a doll that attacks people. And he says, yes, Father, it's downstairs. Would you like to see it? Now, at this point, it wasn't in a box. It was sitting still in a rocking chair. And so they go downstairs. Father Bill looks at it, picks it up, and throws it across from him and says, God is stronger than the devil. And my grandfather looked at him and says, yes, Father, God is stronger than the devil, but no man is. That night, and this is according to Father Bill, he was driving home that night on Route 8 in Connecticut, and he saw this white light coming out of the sky directly at him. And just before he veered off the road, in the halo of the light, he swore he saw Annabelle. He went into the median, and the car was ripped in half, and his leg was broken. Now, my grandfather used to talk about that until I think Father Bill asked him to stop, at which point my grandfather changed the story. He still tried to warn the public not to mess with Annabelle, but changed this to a boy on a motorcycle with his girlfriend. Not true, never happened. That's the Father Bill story that he changed. He wasn't doing it to be dishonest. He was doing it to warn the public about the dangers. On another separate occasion, Ed and Lorraine were driving along Route 84 in Pennsylvania on a pretty lonely road. There weren't really any other cars around, but there was a truck about a quarter mile back. As they drove, the religious couple couldn't help but notice the abundance of biblical-sounding place names along the way. Communities such as Lord's Valley, Bethlehem, and Paradise. Chris revealed my grandfather made an offhand joke and said, not even Annabelle or Amityville could bother us here because of all the biblical influences. And they said that it felt like something had smacked the back of their car, like they'd been hit by another car, and their car spun and went into a ditch. This was a big black beauty. It had a license plate, Ghost. My grandparents gave me the car many years later. The truck stopped, obviously, to help. And he said that he swore that they had gotten in a car accident, like another car had hit them, but there was really nobody there. He added, my grandfather said, I learned then never to joke around about another Annabelle, or to joke around about Annabelle. Annabelle is reportedly now traveling around the U.S. as part of the Devils on the Run tour. And those who have long followed Warren's adventures can now get right up close to America's most feared doll. Fascinated crowds have turned up in droves. However, there are those who are more concerned than excited, with some even believing that Annabelle's presence has sparked everything from fires to jailbreaks. Chris does not believe Annabelle is demonically possessed and also does not think she's capable of causing catastrophe on such a colossal scale. However, he does believe that she contains a certain energy that could be dangerous, especially to those who are particularly vulnerable. According to Chris, my grandfather would have told you the same thing. When you go into the museum, he always told us, he told everybody he invited in, do not touch anything. If your energy interacts with its energy, you could be hurt if you're the wrong person. If you are that susceptible person, I believe there is enough people who are terrified of Annabelle that even if this were not the actual doll itself, if they were using a stand-in, which I don't know, it would still be dangerous because there are people who are psychologically vulnerable. They can easily believe that they are being influenced by this thing, and they could cause harm to themselves or others. In recent years, Chris says he constantly is getting requests for help from people who believe Annabelle has appeared to them, something that didn't happen before she exploded into multiplex cinema screens. Although it's purported that Annabelle hasn't actually harmed a human being since 1975, the psychological hold she has over modern believers in the paranormal remains undeniable. As for Chris, he views Annabelle as an egregore, an entity created through human energy that has reacted over the years to the fears of others. The innocent looking doll's seriously creepy backstory gives it shape, identity, and ultimately power over those who roll up to stare at it. He said, I'm not afraid of this thing, but that's because it's like a snake handler learning how to handle snakes. I know what this thing is. I know how to deal with it, and I'm not going to be afraid of it, but I do respect it and its power. I don't believe it's a demon, but I do believe it has energy. I don't believe it has tremendous intelligence or anything of the sort. I think it's reactive, not active. So why doesn't it break out of its case? It's reactive, not active. Ed died in 2006 at the age of 79. 7 years before the Conjuring movie had cinema goers shrieking in their seats. Lorraine died in 2019 at the age of 92, having lived long enough to see their work immortalized in Hollywood blockbusters. This pop culture phenomena certainly has been strange for Chris to witness. Chris remembers his maternal grandparents as just good people and far more ordinary than the pedestal of Hollywood fantasy would suggest. They were open to changing with the times and admitting they were wrong when needed. Chris recalled, even my grandmother said the best psychic in the world is only right 60% of the time, which is a terrible average to change your life. While the couple did both enjoy painting spooky pictures, Ed wasn't a keen singer or guitar player, as was depicted in the blockbuster franchise. Chris doesn't see too much of his grandparents in the portrayals, however. He admits to having felt emotional during a scene in The Conjuring 3 when Ed presents Lorraine with a gazebo, an event which actually did occur in real life. Grandma Lorraine was soft on her grandson and sweetly fond of keeping chickens when she wasn't tackling otherworldly mysteries, but also wasn't one to be crossed. Granddad Ed could be a joker when it came to the spooky nature of their work, especially when it came to his Halloween room in the basement, which connected to the museum. Chris laughed, oh, he could be a pain sometimes. I was already afraid, and he'd have me go down the stairs to the basement and have rubber bats dropping on my head and things like that. As for his own experiences with the museum, Chris has only encountered one inexplicable occurrence, which occurred when he invited a friend to see the eerie display. This was after the death of his grandfather, and Chris and his friend stopped by Union Cemetery. In life, Ed had been fascinated by Union Cemetery, a spot said to be haunted by the spectral white lady. They stopped by his grandparents' home and museum on the way to visit Ed's grave in Stepney. And what at first seemed to be like an ordinary trip turned extraordinary once they looked back at the photos that they'd taken. Chris told us, we took photos there first. Then we went to the museum. My grandmother told us, go right ahead. I took pictures of her at my grandfather's desk. I took a picture of her with Annabelle and everywhere else. Then we went and visited my grandfather's grave and took pictures there. She's looking at all these photos and there's no problem. But the next morning, when we went to look at the photos again, Union Cemetery is there. My grandfather's grave is there, but everything that we took in the museum is gone. Interesting. Okay, so I read that story with this in mind. And this was pointed out to me by a friend last week. And this friend said, have you looked at Johnny's post this week? I said, no, I hadn't. And this story came out last week in the Mirror.
Mm-hmm.
I said, no, I haven't. She said, go look at Johnny's post. And I look, and Johnny posted this. It says, wisdom, things I remember and understand years later. I remember one time when Ed Warren was sitting at the kitchen table with his arms crossed. Trust no one, said Ed. He continued. They will stab you in the back and twist the knife as far as they can. Kid, it's always the ones you trust. Lorraine Warren turns from the counter where she was making the coffee and shifting her eyes with that smile of hers to look at us. She said, oh, snakes in the grass. Yes, Ed, snakes in the grass. Don't you know they are, dear? Lorraine came over to the table, bringing some butter cookies and coffee, and sat down with us. I, in turn, and looked at both of them, and as I say, what the hell are you talking about now? Who are you referring to? They looked at each other and busted out laughing, and at that point, Lorraine said, now on to the next topic, as she smiled. This conversation happened many times, and it wasn't until years later I said to myself, now I get it. Boy, do I get it, as I smile. Johnny's office.
Hmm.
So that was the main one. He also had another one talking about, it's funny, the older I get, the more I'd rather communicate with the dead and the less with the living, less stressful. And you may say, well, Tim, could be about anybody in the paranormal.
Yeah.
Right. But it's funny that this story comes out about Annabelle touring, and it features a member of his family. And it has a lot to do with the legacy of Ed and Lorraine. He's very protective of Ed's legacy. He doesn't say much about Lorraine, but he's very protective of Ed's legacy. I just know that from knowing him.
Right.
I wonder if this isn't a shot across the bow at this article. And if there isn't some slight exaggerations in the article. I don't know where they are. I couldn't tell you.
Right.
Because I don't know either one of them enough to say where they are.
Yeah, it feels a little cryptic, like he's saying something without saying it.
Yeah.
And the timing is a little too coincidental.
Yeah. But it's not like Johnny to throw that out in public. Johnny's not one to he's not one to state stuff like that publicly and leave it out there
Mm-hmm.
unless he has a message for somebody and they know who they are.
Right.
You know.
Is he connected on social media with the grandson? Like the grandson would see what he wrote, or does he just maybe we
Oh
think
yeah.
he assumes? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So and things are tense in that family anyways, you know. Um I mean, there's no love lost in different areas of that family. So, but I'm not going to get into the politics of what's going on in that family because I don't know all for sure. But
Right.
keep in mind that John worked closely with Ed and Lorraine. I mean, he would know. So I trust him implicitly to know if someone's maybe fibbing a little bit in an article.
Embellishing a little bit here and
Yeah,
there.
yeah, for him to call him out. I think maybe that's what he's doing.
Could be.
I think
Could be. And I mean, in the grandson's defense, not that I'm defending him or he needs to be defended, but if he's recalling stuff from his childhood, we do sometimes remember that differently
sure.
than the way that it really happened. So there's some unintentional embellishment because sometimes we remember things more dramatically from
Mm-hmm.
childhood than it actually was.
Absolutely. But it's different to remember stuff differently and then sit down in front of a journalist and tell them to publish it for the entire world.
Right.
You want to make sure before you document it. I would even go in front of another family member and say, do you remember it the way I remember it? Because I'm about to tell it to someone and have it published. Because if I don't
I'm about to
remember,
make this fact.
yep. Because before I recall this in front of a journalist, I want to make sure that I remember it the way it happened. Because if it didn't happen the way I remember it happening, I don't want to rehash it in front of a journalist. Because it gets recorded and then it's out there.
And then people believe that as true history.
That's right. And then when a relative is upset, then they come back at you. And then all of a sudden there's real beef. And then you got issues. You know? And if that's the way you recall things, okay, that's the way you recall things, but that isn't necessarily true history, right?
Right.
And you can find things to back up history. So just be careful what it is you say. That's not always the truth. It's just the way things are. All right, let's move on to the next story. I just thought that was interesting
It
that
is.
to see that, to see the parallels there. This next story has to do with a futurist who claims that X-Men like mutants will walk among us within 5 years.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, how would you like to just run into a person who has powers, Jess?
Kind of fun.
It would be kind of fun. Now, here's my question. Will we have the same prejudices? Because we do have a very polarized society right now.
I mean, we kind of do that now with like psychics,
Yeah. Yeah.
people don't always believe them or they put negative connotations on them, as,
The
you know,
devil.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. It's true. Transhumanism could see real life mutants become the norm, according to, and render ordinary humans obsolete. According to millionaire tech investor and futurist Herbert Sim, the use of science and technology to enhance humans beyond what evolution can alone achieve, a practice known as transhumanism, will see a race of mutant humans become a reality within as little as 5 years. Sim has a new startup, Neurochip, which aims to upgrade humans using modern day technology. Transhumanism can help to extend your life for 500 years. And then it's amazing to think what we can achieve, he said. Humanity has now reached a point where we are at a crossroads and we're trying to accept technology into our lives to enhance our lifestyles. The sky really is the limit when it comes to this subject. For example, it might one day be possible to enhance human eyesight with zoom and record functions through ocular implants. It might also be possible to enhance physical capabilities and make people immune to diseases. All of this technology is here to help humans transcend and live longer, said Sim. These are possible superpowers that humans can have through the use of genetic technology. Sim argues that once these enhanced mutants begin walking the streets, ordinary humans without upgrades will become obsolete. That's kind of a scary thought to think of. Because of these very dominant new races, they will be better than humans in every single way, he said. The humans that are left over, they will not be able to contribute to society as effectively as these transhumans. As at this, oh, at the moment, lots of people have only seen this technology in films and see it as a downfall, but I believe it is our redemption, Sim went on to say. The way I see it is that technology and science are here to empower humans the same way medicines and phones are here to make our lives better. Transhumans, what do you think, Jess?
I just feel like no matter what we do, we're going out one way or another. AI is going to get us, transhumans are going to get us. We're just, we're doomed, Tim.
Do you look at it as a doom thing, though? I mean, some people look at it as an upgrade, you
I
know?
mean, it'll be fun to watch other people be amazing while I'm just sitting here like,
It's just me rotting away in a corner, no big deal.
I'll just sit over here and write my books.
Writing my books, rotting away, no big deal. I don't know, I have this debate with Mally all the time. On on supernatural news, or I say, if you're given the option, I think of like my Sharko foot, right?
Hmm.
If they could, I always say, if they could figure out a way where they could do it safely, where I could be given a bionic leg to replace my leg, where they could do
Yeah,
a transplant and there was no rejection, and it could meld in seamlessly, where I could have a new foot and it would be perfectly normal and it wouldn't feel alien to me. It would just feel like my natural foot. I'd do it in a minute.
for sure. Yeah,
So I could have that working functional foot again and just be normal. I totally do it in a minute. And
yeah.
she's like, nope, no way. Nope.
Nope. I would. I would. I'm with you, Tim.
Or the whole, would you do a spinal transplant? Suffering with a broken neck and a broken back. I would.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally would. And honestly, like all of this, I kind of joke that we're doomed, but I'm here for it. Like, I'm fascinated by it. I enjoy watching it all play out. I'm not afraid of it. You know, if I'm doomed, I'm doomed. Life is temporary. None of us survive. You know, we're all going out somehow.
Yep. We don't get out
So,
of this life alive type
you
deal.
know, I'm just fascinated by all of it. So, I don't know. But yeah, if you could have something replaced with something bionic and it would function well, I would totally be there. Like, hit me up. I'll take it.
Well, even the technology of artificial discs in your spine, fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I could do it yet. I mean, I have the very real possibility that I may have to do it about 5 years down the road. But to put an artificial disc in my spine, I know people who have had it done, and they say it's wonderful. It's changed their life. But
Yeah.
but
And
to
you
me,
just feel like maybe the technology isn't quite there yet, so you'd be
yeah,
afraid to try it?
yeah, yeah. I just don't feel like it's too new to me.
Yeah. Everything comes with a risk, right? Like, you go under the knife, something could go wrong, your body could reject it,
Yeah,
whatever it might be.
yeah. I just feel like it's too new yet. There's not that there's not enough known about it, but it's that I don't want to call people test subjects, patients. Like the patient hasn't had long enough to have it in their body to know what the body does with it. So what does it do 10 years after it's been in, 20 years after it's been in? How does it degrade in the body? How does it,
Right.
what does it do? Does it function like your bone would 20, 30, 40 years down the road? Um, you know, it that sort of stuff, because and does it really extend your life to have all these different parts put in? So,
Yeah. And with some of the stuff that's newer, like to your point, you don't know 10, 20, 30 years down the road because it hasn't been around that long.
right.
My husband's grandmother had a pig heart valve replacement done, and like her options were, and that seems crazy, right? Like, think of someone telling you that 30 years ago that we were going to be doing pig heart valves or pig heart
Yeah.
replacements in people, you'd be like, what? But her choice was like, your heart's going to give out now or any day now, or you can have, I think it was 5 more years was what they told her. This will extend your life 5 more years, but you're not going to extend much beyond that because that's about the longevity of this transplant and how long it will function. So she took it, but we'd talk to her and she'd be like, well, that was 3 years ago. I've only got 2 years left. So she was just like counting down,
My,
but we got to keep her a little longer. So God rest her soul because she did pass away this year.
uh, yeah, I believe my grandfather had that done too. Pig valve. Yeah.
But yeah, when you think about it, when you're telling your grandparents of people who would be like, that's such a foreign idea to them, right? Like, think of them as a kid, someone telling them that. They would never believe that. So they're being presented with something that's wild, and they're like, "Yeah, let's go."
Grandpa's joke was just, I smell bacon. Is that me? I smell bacon. Um, you know, but
Yeah,
yeah,
can you not eat bacon anymore if you have a pig part in you?
I would think you would, but it'd just be cannibalism.
Yeah, crazy.
But you know what? You'd be able to smell out a truffle from a mile away.
That's true. You just
Yeah.
have to switch to turkey bacon,
Turkey bacon. I love
which is
turkey
not
bacon.
as good.
You don't think so?
I like it, but I love fat. Like, I'm a fat eater when I eat meat. Like,
Yeah.
when my husband and I were dating, we went out to dinner. Not We weren't dating very long, and he got a steak and he left all the fat behind. I'm like, "Are you not gonna eat some of that? Like, give me your fat." He's like, "You're gonna eat that? It's so gelatinous." I'm like, "It's the tastiest part."
So you're not a filet mignon eater. You'd
I
rather
mean, I'll eat it all, but you got a piece of meat and it's got some nice fat on the edges of it. I like to eat that with the meat. That's delicious.
hmm.
I'm
Interesting.
definitely not cutting my fat off my steak. I mean, I won't eat all of it because then I'll need a pig heart replacement.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But it is yummy. That's why pig bacon is so good. It's got all this fat in it. Turkey bacon has no fat.
It's very lean. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good for you. That's mostly what we eat at our house
Yeah.
is turkey bacon.
Turkey
So
bacon.
maybe I'm just missing pig fat.
I think you are. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm gonna rescue you. I'm gonna throw a big log of Jimmy Dean sausage on your front step.
bring me some sausage and bacon, Tim.
Yep.
You'll be my best friend.
The real stuff. It's gonna be a drive by too. I'm just gonna drive by in my van and launch it onto your front step and keep moving. So then that way your family doesn't know. They'd be like, "Who put this real Jimmy Dean sausage on our step?" You'll be
Why,
like,
why is mom sitting outside on the front porch eating raw bacon?
"Why is this real pig product on our front porch?" Never mind.
Well, my dad makes the best bacon, I do have to say, because my dad's a pig farmer, right? So like when he makes bacon, like our house bacon, like from one of our own pigs,
Yep.
mm,
There you
chef's
go.
kiss. Doesn't get better than that.
See? Nothing better than homegrown, homemade. That's for sure. That's for sure. Well, speaking of getting ground up into sausage, the Bilderbergs are back. See what I did with the transition?
What a good segue.
I'm telling you. That's why I went to school.
You're a
Uh,
pro.
oh, I try. The annual meeting of the shadowy Bilderberg group is taking place in Sweden right now. So our world fate is being decided as we sit here and just jaw away. The event, which has taken place almost every year since 1954, remains shrouded in mystery and intrigue. I can tell you right now, they ain't talking about nothing good. Originally intended to enable dialogue between Europe and North America, the group, which is comprised of some of the world's most powerful politicians, bankers, and business owners, has become synonymous with stories of shady dealings and clandestine government agendas. Adding to the mystery surrounding the group's annual meetings is the fact that no cameras or journalists are allowed inside, meaning that everything that is discussed remains private. This year's meetings, which take place this past week and take place into this week, were attended by NATO General Secretary Mark Rutte, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, and U.S. military commander Christopher Donahue. What do all those people have in common? Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know.
Don't know.
Why should Microsoft and the U.S. be in the U.S. military be and NATO all be in the same room? According to reports, the meeting aimed to address topics such as the situation in Ukraine, artificial intelligence, transatlantic relations, and the distribution of valuable rare materials. That's even sketchy to be talking about all that between a bunch of
Right?
nations.
Hmm.
Everything else about the event, however, has remained under wraps. As things stand, it remains unclear just how impactful the Bilderberg meetings actually are to global events, with some playing down their significance and others maintaining that they are secretly more influential than many world governments. Suffice to say, it is unlikely we'll ever know exactly what goes on at the events after the doors have closed. I say it's a lot like Bohemian Grove. They just put up a big owl effigy and Walter Cronkite's voice comes out of it and they all strip, get naked, and do plays. I think it's just that whole deal.
I think so. How do we get invited to that? Sounds fun.
I think we have to swear a blood oath to some
Oh,
effigy of some sort, and then we get in.
okay. Never mind.
But it's I mean, it's a little complicated, Jess, but we can get there.
We can just replicate. We can do our own version, Tim. We don't have to do any blood oath. We'll just
Right.
do our own weird
We got
thing.
our own crew, the DRC, and you still have to swear a blood oath, but it's a blood oath to Stan Lee from Marvel Comics.
Yeah, you don't actually have to cut your finger or anything weird like that. Just swear blood oath.
It's a small paper cut right on the inside, and the inside of the webbing of your hand. The webbing stands for
Oh, any
Spider-Man.
place but there.
But that's how you get in.
Ooh.
But other than that, Our next story, as I'm trying to get you to not focus on the paper cut on the webbing of your hand. The next story has to do with scientists who are puzzled by a mysterious signal coming from the Antarctic ice. It's the thing. I'll just tell you right now.
Yes.
Remember the movie?
Yes.
Yep, that's what it is.
That's what it is.
I'll just skip right to the end. It's the thing.
We just solved the mystery. Moving on.
And moving on to the next story. According to researchers, the unexplained radio pulses defy our current understanding of particle physics. Something strange seems to be emanating from the depths of the Antarctic ice. That is, at least according to readings recently obtained by a mobile cosmic particle detector known as the Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, or ANITA experiment. Anita Baker. She just goes in there and goes, "Ba, ba, 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 ba," and then they find it. The project consists of multiple, that's my best Anita Baker for you. The project consists of multiple instruments designed to pick up radio waves from cosmic rays hitting the Earth's atmosphere. In a strange twist, however, rather than reflecting off the ice as expected, these newly detected signals appear to be coming from beneath it, something that shouldn't be possible based on our current understanding of particle physics. The radio waves that we detected were at really steep angles, like 30 degrees below the surface of the ice, said Stephanie Whistle, who is the associate professor of physics, astronomy, and astrophysics. That means that the signals would have to pass through thousands of miles of rock before reaching the detector, a journey that would have almost certainly rendered them undetectable. So how could the signals have taken this route and still have been picked up by the detector? It's an interesting problem because we still don't have an explanation for how those anomalies are. But what we do know is that they are most likely not representing neutrinos, said Vissel. Neutrinos, which are typically emitted by high energy sources, are notoriously difficult to detect. This has meant that scientists have had to come up with novel new ways of picking them up. If we detect them, it means that they have traveled all this way without interacting with anything else, said Vissel. We could be detecting a neutrino coming from the edge of this observable universe, she went on to say. Interesting. Elsewhere in the Antarctic, a real-life land that time forgot has been discovered beneath the Antarctic ice. That means we're going to get that huge fuzzy creature from the land that time forgot.
Yes, I love this.
It's about time. Scientists have found signs that a vast prehistoric landscape was hidden a mile beneath the ice. It might be hard to imagine today, but millions of years ago, Antarctica wasn't the freezing, barren wasteland of snow and ice that we see now, but a vibrant landscape consisting of forest, rivers, swamps, and mountains, teeming with all sorts of long extinct creatures. Now a team of scientists headed up by Professor Stuart Jameson, a geologist at Durham University, has uncovered a veritable lost world deep beneath the Antarctic ice. Untouched for 34 million years, this 12,000 square mile region lies in a part of East Antarctica called Wilkes Land and lies approximately 1 mile beneath the frozen surface. Discovered through the use of satellite data and ice-penetrating radar, this long-lost region consists of deep valleys and towering ridges and is indicating the presence of ancient rivers and forests. This finding is like opening a time capsule, said Professor Jameson. The land underneath the let me try that again. The East Antarctic ice sheet is less well known than the surface of Mars, he went on to say. We're investigating a small part of that landscape in more detail to see what it can tell us about the evolution of the landscape and the evolution of the ice sheet. As for the future, there are plans to drill directly down through the ice to obtain samples for further study and analysis, potentially revealing even more about this prehistoric lost world. The research can also help scientists better understand how the Antarctic landscape is likely to evolve over the coming decades. Another mystery for you having to do with an iceberg. See what we're doing? We're traveling through frozen tundra right now. A mystery as fishermen captures a photograph of a very rare black iceberg. And actually, I have a picture to show you of this thing, Jess. Take a look at that black iceberg right ahead.
Ooh, that is wild looking.
Imagine hitting that in the middle of the night with your ship.
You're going down.
Going down. Better let the orchestra know so they can play through it. One too many moments with Titanic. The unusual chunk of ice was spotted during a fishing excursion off the coast of Labrador, Canada. Icebergs are almost always white in color, which makes this particular sighting, which occurred back in May, approximately 100 kilometers offshore in the Hopedale Channel, so unusual. It was spotted off Nain and Hopedale. Uh, Boy, is this a name. By Halur Antonusen, a
Ooh.
native of the Faroe Islands who had been working aboard the Sapudi factory freezer trawler. The unusual coloration and shape of the iceberg quickly drew his attention. I've seen icebergs that are rolled, what they say have rolled in the beach with some rocks in it, he told CBC Radio. This one here is completely different. It's not only that it is all black, it is almost in a diamond shape. It is worth bearing in mind that Antonusian has seen countless icebergs over the last 50 years. So for an iceberg to completely surprise him would have to be something unusual indeed. It is something you don't see very often. And a camera is not something I run around with when I'm working, he said. So I just ran into my room and took my phone and snapped this picture. So why is the iceberg black? One possibility is that it contains debris that was churned up when it scraped across the ocean floor in the distant past and later was exposed when the iceberg flipped over. Some have also suggested that it might be ash from an ancient volcanic eruption. Whatever the case, it's certainly unusual. All right, one more strange and unusual thing to bring up to you, and then we have a Parashare.
Awesome.
A second hidden city was allegedly found beneath the Giza pyramids. The team who claimed to have found the first hidden city back in March has now discovered even more hidden structures. Earlier this year, a team of researchers from Scotland's University of Strathclyde and Italy's University of Pisa claimed that by using radar pulses to create high-resolution images of what lies beneath Egypt's pyramids of Giza, they had discovered 8 vertical cylindrical structures extending 2,100 feet beneath the ground and even more unidentified structures descending further 4,000 feet below that. At the time, the seemingly groundbreaking discovery of a complex hidden beneath the pyramids was met with skepticism by the archaeological community, with many experts questioning their findings. If you fast forward a few months, now that same team is back with the claim that it has discovered evidence of matching shafts. I said matching shafts, Jess. And chambers beneath the neighboring pyramid of Menkaure. According to the researchers, there is a 90% probability that the scans show the same types of pillars as those detected beneath the pyramid of, I believe this is Khafre, adding that the likelihood that there is a colossal subterranean complex around 2,000 feet beneath the desert floor. They say, this is a quote, "The pyramids are only the tip of the iceberg," said lead radar specialist Filippo Biondi. As before, however, his latest revelation has also been met with fierce skepticism from other experts. Egypt's former antiquities minister, Dr. Zahi Hawass, has been particularly vocal in his criticism of the findings, branding the whole thing impossible and reemphasizing the lack of peer review. Meanwhile, Biondi and his colleagues have promised to reveal the full tomography data within months and are currently seeking permission to conduct coring tests at that site. Whether they have really found evidence of a hidden city, however, remains to be seen. So with that, Jess, do you think there are structures under the pyramids of Giza?
Absolutely. That I totally do believe. Why not?
What do you think? Is there a full Egyptian mall there with all kinds of shops? Do you think there's a
Yeah, hair salons, nail salons.
Spencer's? Do you think there's a Spencer's? Beneath?
Spencer Gifts. Is that where J.C. Penney's and Sears went to die?
Yes, yes. That's eventually where they all went to die. Yes. I think there's a Sears there. There's a full tool department there at Sears as well, with ancient tools and the way that they built the pyramids.
Ooh, I would love to go there, Tim.
The Sears underneath the pyramids?
Yeah, just to see.
You know what? There's probably as many sales representatives there to help you as there is in an actual Sears as well. So you probably just look around, just keep walking around.
Yep,
Eventually you'll find
yep.
him.
Just find a corpse in a corner.
Yep, he's wearing a pair of tough skins. They'll find him. Just keep looking. Do you remember tough skins?
No, I don't. What's a tough skin?
You don't remember tough skins?
Sounds like a rubber.
They actually squeaked like them. Um,
Yeah.
they were those corduroys. They were the you don't remember them? They were the
No.
oh
Were they like really cool in the 90s or no?
70s.
They oh, 70s. Okay.
No, they
I
were
was quite young in the 70s.
they used to rub against your inner thighs and go swish 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 swish. And you walked in them. They were not something to be proud of.
No.
Not at all. They were horrible. Horrible.
And they live on and under the pyramids.
Oh boy, do they ever in the pyramids. Okay. We have a Parashare here. I don't want to think about tough skins anymore. Actually, I said tough skins, and some people went into PS or PTSD when I said that. I almost said PSTD. That's how much PTSD I have from tough skins. Yeah.
Ooh, I'm excited for a Parashare though.
Yeah. Here we go. Here
My
we go.
favorite.
Yeah. So this one is a relatively short one. It comes from Brian. Not that Brian is a short one. I'm not saying that, but I just gave Brian,
Brian.
I almost gave Brian PTSD there. Brian says, "Hey, Tim and the co-hostess with the mostest, Mally and Jessica." He's including all of us because I think
Aw, thanks, Brian.
says, "Love the podcast. It keeps me going through the work days. Wanted to share a couple of paranormal and weird events with y'all. Please feel free to use them as parashares if the spirit moves you. I am Brian. I was born and raised in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. In West Alabama, there's a cemetery next to my neighborhood, and it never freaked me out. Sometimes Dad and I would take our telescope out there and stargaze. Until this one night in 1990, when I was 16 years old, two of my friends and I were walking through the cemetery looking at the statues and just hanging out. When suddenly I looked up and I saw a door-shaped portal appear next to the road. I could barely get out the words, 'Guys, look, it's a door.' Sure enough, it was a solid pitch black door next to a headstone. You could see the outline of this door-shaped portal because the inside of it was pitch black. One of my friends started walking towards it to check it out. Instinctively, I ran up to him, grabbed him by his collar, and noped out of there. We ran back to the car and headed home." Probably the best thing he could have done, Brian.
That was wise.
He said another event happened in 2006 with my young son. We were living in Northwest Florida. My son and I are sitting on the floor rolling a ball. He's 2 years old. I'm sitting on the floor with my back facing the front door. All of a sudden, my son starts to freak out. He's in a full-blown panic and says, "Lights, Daddy. Look, bright lights." He was pointing directly behind me and scared to death. He jumped into my lap, shaking. And Cowie, our dog, was sitting next to us and was growling at something behind me. She was in full-blown protection mode, growling and staring. The hair on the back of my neck was standing straight up, cold shivers up and down my spine. Fully expecting to see something scary or a UFO, ghost or the librarian from Ghostbusters, I slowly turned around. I saw nothing at all, which freaked me out even more. I called out loud, "Whoever's here, show yourself or leave." Suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, a shadow darted down the hall. For the next few years in the house, we had other paranormal instances of shadow figures and sleep paralysis. Fortunately, it stopped after we moved.
Ooh.
He says, "I got a few more accounts and stories to share too. Thanks again for two of the best paranormal podcasts around. Hope you find these spooky and let me know if you have any questions." Yeah, have you got any more stories?
Yes, send them all.
Send them all. That's all we ask.
Those were good. And I love the way that he turned nope into a verb.
Yeah, I noped it out of there. Just like the movie, Nope. Yeah, that was good, Brian. We
That
appreciate
was
it.
good.
We appreciate those. And if you have a story for Parashare, it's real simple. You just send it in, tim@darknessradio.com, just like Brian did. You can write it in an email form. If you have a voice note you want to send us, you can just go to darknessradioshow.com, click on that blue button on the right-hand side. You have 2 minutes to leave your voice note. If you need more time, just rinse and repeat. Click the blue button again, leave 2 more minutes, click the blue button again, click 2 more minutes. You get the idea. I'll stitch them all together. I'll air it here on the show. Or if you have a studio just like the ones Jess and I are sitting in, make your own theater of the mind. Add your voice, add some music, add some sound effects, mix them together, send it to me. I'll review it, make sure it's airable. If it is, I'll put it right here on the air. And we'll hear your theater of the mind. So there you go. All right, Jess. Just a couple more stories that are left for the show. For today, chemtrails. That's where we're going next.
Okay.
Evidently, 8 U.S. states are cracking down on chemtrails, and they're moving to ban illicit sky spraying. The recent move to ban chemtrails in Tennessee and Florida has now prompted similar legislation in other states. What started out as a baseless conspiracy theory has since turned into an increasingly widespread legislative movement that has now spread to 8 U.S. states, with possibly more on the way. The chemtrails conspiracy began back in 1990s when a theory emerged suggesting that the vapor trails of high-altitude aircraft can often be seen crisscrossing the sky, and they're actually trails of chemicals being deliberately sprayed by the government for shadowy, nefarious purposes. While several possible agendas have been put forward, ranging from chemical or biological weapons testing to weather modification, no conclusive evidence that these trails or anything sinister has ever been forthcoming. Nonetheless, in recent years, both Tennessee and Florida have introduced legislation to make such activities illegal, or more specifically, to outlaw the injection, release, or dispersion, and this is a quote, by any means necessary of a chemical compound, a substance, or apparatus into the atmosphere for the express purposes of affecting the temperature, weather, climate, or intensity of sunlight. While critics have argued that these bills are a waste of time, several more states, including Louisiana, Texas, Kentucky, North Dakota, and yes, Minnesota, are now also looking to introduce their own equivalent legislation. I'm surprised that our state has thought about doing this.
I am too.
We tend to be a very scientific state. But there's also at least some reason to be cautious about what is being sprayed in the sky. Timothy Tangerlini, who is a professor at the Berkeley School of Information, cites Agent Orange, which is an herbicide used during the Vietnam War, as a prime example. There are certain things that were sprayed by airplanes that did have a massive impact on the environment and on people's health. Fast forward 50 years, and there's a deep suspicion of the government and things that did fly. Whether even more states will decide to introduce their own legislation to combat such practices, however, remains to be seen. Now, I can see Minnesota saying, okay, we're going to ban quote unquote chemtrails because we don't know what it is that certain agencies are spraying. And it could be that they're experimenting with spraying certain things into the atmosphere because they're seeding clouds for rain. They're seeding clouds to see what environmental changes we can make. Maybe they're experimenting with global warming agents. They're doing different things, environmental changes. They're experimenting with different farm chemicals, farming agents.
Right.
I get that. What I don't get are to go off and say, well, maybe these are DARPA experiments, or this is, to go off the fringe element and say, it's aluminum that you're seeding clouds with, or you're putting diseases into clouds, or this is a chemical agent that you're trying to poison the community en masse with.
Right.
I've never bought that.
I don't. Well, I mean, you'd be poisoning yourself too.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you're breathing the same air.
Yeah,
So
you can't control an airborne
no.
chemical. So
Yeah. I don't know. I take my conspiracy theories kind of like I take my paranormal evidence or research, right? Like I need tangible proof before I'm going to believe. Like I have to it needs to be shown that it's not, you know, just our imaginations or our wild, wonderful imaginations. trying to make sense out of something. So I don't know. And I don't think that the government is trying to kill us.
No.
Why?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, what is it? The government is there first to manage, second, it's always a police function to protect and serve, but there's too much money to be made to be killing, right?
Yeah, they
I
kind of
understand,
need us around.
I understand the Illuminati thing of needing to get us under so many of a population in order to be manageable, but I've always got that perspective. But you would think with the more you have in the population, the more profit there would be because you have more to sell to. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah. And I mean, we'll just kill each other. We're just
Yeah.
we're all so angry right now. You don't have to poison us with things in the air.
Right.
You've already poisoned our brains.
Yeah. Yeah. There's, eventually we'll all do each other. And so it's not, that's a great pessimistic thing to
There
throw out.
you go.
Yeah.
Just a little ray of sunshine today.
If we don't kill each other, Jess, then by gosh, sharks falling from the sky will do it.
Ooh, Sharknado?
It could be. One such disc golfer in South Carolina may have run into a sharknado.
What?
Mhm. It's as we're heading towards the end of the program, this is one of our stories that may be one of the most bizarre stories we have today.
I thought that was too crazy to be even remotely true.
It is true.
Ah,
I'll even show you the picture here.
okay. It's like a baby shark, and don't you dare sing that song.
Baby shark, do 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 do. Baby shark. There it
It is
is.
a
Look,
little one.
the
Okay,
little
I can see
hand.
this because this has happened with like frogs and stuff. Like they've been picked up out of the water and dropped over the land. I mean, it happens.
Yeah, sometimes it happens from a hurricane. Goes over
Yeah,
water, picks up something out of the water, drops it over coastal land, right?
exactly.
Well, turns out this little hammerhead got into a disc golf game and it didn't mean to. Didn't mean to there, Jess.
So cute.
A disc golf game had to be temporarily halted after the animal unexpectedly plummeted onto the course. This little hammerhead shark did. Players enjoying a game of disc golf at Splinter City Disc Golf Course in Myrtle Beach last month bore witness to a bizarre interruption that they certainly won't be forgetting in a hurry. The incident, which occurred on May 18th, saw the game suspended after a hammerhead shark suddenly fell from the sky and landed on the green near the 11th hole of the course. There is no holes in disc golf. It's just a receptacle, isn't it? It's not a hole.
Figuratively holds.
Yeah, something like that. We couldn't believe it and kept asking ourselves, did that really just happen? Witness Jonathan Marlowe told Garden and Gun magazine, because aren't they the lead correspondent for disc golf? Garden and Gun.
What?
The story gets weirder by the by the
Oh my gosh.
by the sentence. I thought it would be a random fish. Yeah, because random fish fall from the sky when it,
That would make way more sense.
right. Yeah. I thought it was a guppy. It just hit me in the forehead. So, how exactly did a shark wind up falling onto a golf course? Well, as it turns out, the shark has been in the talons of an osprey at the time.
Oh,
See?
there you go.
And see, we're making up big hurricanes, and it was not.
Yeah, it's just a bird who lost his dinner. He's so mad right now.
Yeah. He's like, God darn it.
He's like, son of a.
And when the bird was suddenly startled by some crows, it was like, crow, and let go of his dinner.
Those darn crows.
Crow. When he was startled by some crows, it dropped its catch directly onto the course and hit the doofus with the frisbee right in the head. It's not uncommon to see an osprey carrying something, but when you take note because it's really cool to see, said Marlowe. It's bitching, dude. Right? That was his quote. That's how we end that story. All right, here's your palate cleanser for today, Jess.
Okay.
I was telling you that one U.S. man had flown for free 120 times.
Yes. How, Tim? I must know the secret. I want to do this.
It's easier than you think. How
Okay.
I'm going to ask you first. How do you think he got away with it 120 times?
Sexual favors.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, sure.
How
Yeah.
else do you let you on? Gosh, I don't know. Did he hide in someone's suitcase? Is he
Boy,
like super bendy and small?
I'm wondering how big you got to be built to be a guy and get aboard 120 times with sexual favors.
Yeah.
You got to be built like a maglite.
Yeah.
100
I mean, is it just one sexual favor or is it the whole crew? Like,
I think you even got to nail the captain. I
I
mean,
don't know.
yeah.
You're just tired and it's really not even worth it anymore.
You have stretch marks around your mouth for that deal. So 120 times, 120 times he got on board and flew for free.
Okay.
How do you
I
think
have no idea how. I honestly, like, how? You have to tell me.
he pretended to be a flight attendant?
Well, why didn't I think of that? Why did my brain go dirty?
I don't
Look what
know.
you've done to me, Tim.
I applaud you for thinking he automatically got his knees dirty. Thank you.
You
No,
just made it not safe for work. I'm so sorry,
no,
everyone.
look at you. He automatically went to the gutter, and all he did was just put on a uniform.
Oh, that was much, classier than my version.
Yeah, see, I enjoyed your version very much, but the 35-year-old spent years exploiting a loophole in the system to get out of paying for a plane ticket. Well, flying for free would seem like a pipe dream for most. One man, Tyrone Alexander, managed to come up with an ingenious and very illegal way of getting out of having to pay for anything at all for his flights. Between 2018 and 2024, he managed to fly for free 120 times by misusing a system designed to allow flight attendants and pilots from other airlines to fly without having to buy a ticket. Using knowledge he gained from an actual flight attendant for many years, Alexander falsified his information when checking in so that the system believed that he was entitled to fly for free. Remarkably, he managed to get away with it for years because nobody had ever bothered to check. When filling out the online form, he claimed to have worked for 7 different airlines and used approximately 30 different combinations of identification numbers and contract start dates, according to the prosecution that they said in relation to the court case. In the end, Alexander was found guilty on 4 counts of wire fraud and also on 1 count of accessing a restricted area. While he is yet to be sentenced, he could be facing a lengthy prison term.
Wow. I'm actually kind of surprised that they might throw the book at him.
Yeah, well, again, you're in federal airspace, so
That's true. You don't want to mess with that.
that's right. So yeah, 120 times,
Yikes.
flying all over the country.
Man, you got to think like the first time he tried it, he's like, there's no way this is going to work. And then it did. And he's like 120 times later, busted.
Well, after a while, you just feel entitled, right? I'm
Right?
going to go here. Well, who's going to stop me? Right?
Mm,
You get that sense of entitlement after it happens 10, 20 times. You're just like, oh, I'm going to go here. Who's going to stop me?
yeah.
And when you
He
act,
got busted though.
yeah, but when you act like you belong somewhere and you act like people don't question.
It's true. It's kind of the way you present yourself, right? Like I had a friend, a very good friend in college, who she could say anything and you would believe her because she just said it with so much conviction. She could be telling you something that was pure BS, but just she would just say it with so much conviction. You're just like, yeah.
Yeah,
And then you're like, no, 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 no. That's think about what she just said. That's not logical. That's not
that's right.
real.
That's right.
But yeah, so if you present yourself as like I'm supposed to be here,
Then they believe you.
I wouldn't be able to do it. I'd be giggling.
Oh, I'd lose my damn mind.
Yeah.
I
I'd be like, I'm so nervous. They're gonna figure me out.
Yeah, I would too. Eventually, I'd just be like, I shouldn't be here. They'd be like, huh? I'd just
Mm.
lose my mind, and I'd probably be in the middle of the flight when that crazy pilot comes to the front that, from yesterday from Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals and announces that she's, She's got all these issues. And I'd be like, me too. I have an issue too. I'm not really a flight attendant. And then I'd get off the plane.
Yep.
Yep. And then we'd all go
That
nuts.
would be your undoing.
And see, that's how you bring the joke full circle between two programs.
You're always nailing it.
Hey. With that, I suppose we should end the program. All right, a couple of reminders before we leave you today, folks. One, the Darkness Radio Apple app is available right now and updated and ready for you. If you have it on your device already, be sure you update it. If you don't have it, go to the Apple Store and get it. So there's that reminder. Two, if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't seen the video yet, then by all means, go to the YouTube channel, which is the original Darkness Radio. Or simply go to darknessradioshow.com, click on the description of this program, and look for the video, which is right above the audio of this program. They're both in the same place. If you're looking for them both in one place, darknessradioshow.com. Three, the executive producer of today's program is Troy Palmer. Thank you, Troy, for everything you do. And lastly, let's tell you who's on the program tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, the program that will scare the absolute piss out of you. I'm telling you this right now. Sigils have been found on the bodies of abductees of UFOs, abductees of aliens. Sigils. Right there. Are they burned into the skin? Are they left into the skin of these abductees? And what do they mean? Actual symbols, sigils, religious symbols. Why? If it's an alien that came across the universe and knows nothing of our religious symbols, why are they being burned in? Are these actual aliens? Or are they demons? An old friend of ours, Nathaniel Gillis, is back with us tomorrow to tell us more about his research and why we aren't dealing with what we think we're dealing with when it comes to the alien phenomenon. He's gone even deeper into his research, folks. So deep, in fact, that this may be his very last appearance with us on Darkness Radio. He may not be able to talk about his research much more for much longer, because he's about to get so deep into his research that, as he put it to me on the phone the other night, he may have to stop doing these interviews because, well, I'll let him put it to you on tomorrow's show as to why. It's about to get heavy, folks. You'll find out why on tomorrow's show. That's about as much as I can tell you, Jess.
Wow. I really can't wait to listen.
It's a deep show tomorrow. So I know this much. On the last show that he was on, he said they were combating these things with iron because they were ignoring every religious symbol you would throw at it to rebuke it.
Mm. Yikes.
We'll find out more tomorrow. I'm intrigued. And Nathaniel's been across the pond, so to speak, and commiserating with others, other experts. So I'm interested to see what it is he's come up with the last 6 months to a year since he's been on. So
Yeah, I can't wait.
yeah, it's interesting stuff. That's tomorrow's show. So that'll do it for today. For Jessica Freeburg, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for tuning in to the best in paranormal podcasting. You've been listening to and watching Darkness Radio.
For more audio and video archives of the show, intriguing content, and cool swag, check out darknessradioshow.com. The executive producer of Darkness Radio is Troy Palmer. If you enjoyed today's program, be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Be sure to join us tomorrow for a special program with Nathaniel Gillis.